The August 11th special meeting of the Hawthorne City Council is called to order with all members present, except for Councilman Alice Vargas is here. All members are present. Mr. Clerk, please read the guidelines for oral communications.
Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, the public shall directly address the legislative body concerning items that have been described in the notice of special meeting. Item number 2, Hawthorne Executive Group.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this closed session? If not, I declare oral communication closed. I will now recess the City Council meeting to conduct a closed session and pursue the agenda. We are in recess. The City Council meeting is called back to order. We have met in closed session for a conference and pursue the agenda and the council was directed. Is there anything further? If not, this special meeting is adjourned. We'll be back in 4 minutes. The August 11th, 2015 regular meetings of the Hawthorne City Council, Parking Authority, and Housing Authority are called to order jointly and concurrently with all members present. Patricia Donaldson will do the invocation tonight, and I will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we're very thankful that you gave us another day. Lord, I ask you to bless our mayor pro tem, our city council, our police department, our chief, our fire department, our city employees, our residents, and our businesses. Lord, take care of us, keep us in your hand. Lord, take us through any trial that we may have, but bless us and bless this city. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to call our great chief to the podium.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council, our great city leaders and community that keeps it all together for us. I want to take a couple of minutes of your time tonight. A few subjects that I would like to cover. Each of them I could probably spend a decent amount of time on. I promise I won't do that to you. But their uniqueness and origin of my discussion tonight is fairly important. So I will move through this hopefully at an expeditious rate, and we'll get some knowledge out of it. The topics proposed you see before you, they each actually came up at the last council meeting by virtue of dialogue during oral communications or actually elected official requests. So these are 3 areas that are near and dear to police service. They're certainly near and dear to community residents' mindsets, and I'll try to both set a little background to each and then a very quick update. First, I want to cover response times. Response time, a lot goes into a public safety response time. And what I want to do is just take you and try to condense it into 3 simple areas. First, when an incident is created, when something happens and you pick up the phone and you call 911, that's the actual reporting of a notice. So when you think of response times, you can't forget that. In Hawthorne, when our community calls for service, their emergency call or non-emergency call ultimately arrives at our regional communications center. So if you're familiar with our police department, it's the smaller twin building that sits just west of us. And that's part of a consortium, and that entity, which we are a pioneer and founding partner of, has been in existence for almost 30 years. And they dispatch for about 7 different cities in the South Bay, one of them our own. We're the biggest stakeholder in it. So the calls that come in ultimately arrive there. A complaint taker listens to and communicates to the caller and then creates an incident that can then be categorized and then dispatched to us. If you look at the second box, what that incident is really derives what's going to happen next and the expediency of how it'll happen. So not every call has the same priority. Not every call obviously has the same response. So that's important to know. What goes into response from public safety? A lot of this could be included to fire safety. I'm not going to speak for them, so I'm just going to keep this in the context of your police department. Really, what you're reporting, what's going on, is everything to us. The severity of that puts it at the top of the chart, and then we work down from there. The next thing makes sense. There's only so many public safety officials out in the field. So if everybody is busy, or if everybody is free, that dictates the ability to dispatch somebody to it. And then final, most logical one, how close you are to it, because you have to travel safely in some capacity there. And so that gets you to the scene. Those factors really detail what's considered response time. And then an area that I'll touch on loosely is the incident disposition, but I'll come back to that. So this next table here, hopefully if it shows well in this room, if it doesn't, I'm sorry. These are basically a quick snapshot of response time over the first 6 months of this year. The categories that are important for you to see, the first one, priority E, and then it goes down 1, 2, 3. Think of E as an emergent. They are going to be the highest priority calls that you can imagine. Some felonious assault, bad crime is in progress, and people are reporting it now. And then from that point down, as you work down, other calls start to get categorized. They could be disturbances. They could be the belief of a theft of something in progress. And then as it gets to the lower ends, those are more of your traditional, for what we call really report calls. The crime, unfortunately, has already occurred. There's literally actually nothing going on except for the fact that now a victim is discovering it. And so those priorities and what those are navigate to its classification. You'll notice a couple of key points here. Call received to arrival, that takes in the amount of time it takes a complaint taker to answer the phone, talk to you, make up information, and then start the call creation to us. Call dispatch to arrival, that's when the call is created and sent to a police officer in the field, and then that becomes their response time to get there. So I will tell you that we are absolutely in the green, perfect territory of where we can navigate within Los Angeles County with the reasonableness of our manpower for navigating traffic, navigating our calls for service workload versus how many officers we have, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll notice in the most emergent calls that affect people, we're usually in the ballpark of 2 to 4 minutes to get there. The other calls as you go down, the other line that I want to point out to you, very important, is take a look at the total. That's 11,000 calls up to June of this year. And I'm going to remind you, this isn't 11,000 incidents police officers have become involved in. These are 11,000 calls that have come into our dispatch center that ultimately were determined to merit a call creation. So the calls for service in our community, again, remain extremely high. Second category we talked about last week, I believe it was Council Member English who asked. Current crime stats. Crime stats and data derived typically take in a lot of different components. Again, for the purpose of this presentation, to be as brief as I can, I'm going to focus on 2 key areas. The first and foremost, Part 1 crime stats. Essentially categories created and monitored by the FBI in national jurisdictions that all law enforcement agencies report statistics to. So Part 1 crimes, as you will note at the bottom, and again, if it's a little hard to read here, I'm sorry, but I'll read them to you. Homicide, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, theft, vehicle theft, and arson. Those are the predominant categories that are charted. Really, they encompass the most serious crimes, and they also encompass the most typically encountered crimes. So when areas, cities, communities are compared against each other in a crime statistic way, these are the apples to apples categories. What I've included here for your update is a comparison, again, of the first half of this year, also in comparison to the first half of last year. So in the chart that you're looking at, the orangest line are the marks for this year, 2015. So in various categories, you're going to find different results, somewhat typical. You're going to find increases, again, unfortunately, but truthful to share with you, somewhat typical. And you'll also find increases in categories that mirror some of the dialogue that certainly I know our elected officials have helped push out and support me on. And that actually is now reflective of some of the legislative changes that have occurred in our state over the last several years. So that has directly impacted crime categories that impact quality of life, and offenders return to really society much sooner than they would have 3, 5, or 10 years ago. And thereby the categories that they are repeat offenders in, we are watching crime increases in those categories. Most notable one here that you see peaking is theft. It's the biggest one for me to point out to you. And the reason is because those were the target areas that habitual, and I use this in air quotes, lower grade offenders are attributed to. They're also a category that a lot of narcotic offenders find as really almost a partner complicit talent as well as narcotics. And so if you will look back in the legislative changes over the last several years, what the emphasis was going from incarceration to rehabilitation. And so they didn't want to, of course, thankfully, start with the worst of the worst individuals. So they didn't impact those that were your 3-strike offenders. They really hit the target audience of what they thought were the less serious crimes, and those were the narcotic-based and thieves. And so those were the target audience. And what happened is they tried to take them out of custody sooner so that they could be rehabilitated. The rehabilitation offerings have sorely lacked, and now what you're watching is massive increases of people who excel at those traits being let out to re-offend much sooner. Crime stats. Now, what do they mean to you? That's the city generic view. What I've done here, and as soon as I find my cursor, through the hard work of really Captain Ishii, who's in here tonight with me in our ITS department, we've built out the Hawthorne Police Department webpage considerably from the past. If you haven't gone to it, please do. Every few months, we try to make it more contemporized. We try to address and put on there things that you need, things that citizens would go there for quick answers or support in. And not superfluous items. So as I show you the website here as a whole, what I also want to show you that crime stats in and of itself is a selection you can go to. I've pulled the tab up already. This is something that we have found to be the most advantageous offering to many of our community members, because invariably most of our community that reaches out to us or that we engage in during the course of a year belong to different homeowner groups. So I would probably take a large guess and say that wherever you live, your homeowner group is probably captured here. If it is not, and I'll show you our number at the end, we will freely and openly engage with any resident in this city, irregardless of a homeowner group affiliation or not. But predominantly the homeowner groups are identified here. There are areas that they govern. We have encapsulated and worked with a very strong law enforcement vendor who's helped us derive consistent crime statistics for each of those areas. So what you can do is, if you navigate to the website, depending on where you live, you can click on an area, bring it up, and then when you bring it up, you'll find the monthly crime statistics for your area that will probably answer most aspects of what you would want. When it comes up, I won't do it here because I don't want to run the risk of hitting something and jamming up my whole presentation. But when it comes up, what it'll do is it'll encompass those same Part 1 crime stats I spoke of citywide. They'll do it for your own specific area. Plus, in a second section, they'll also identify the areas or the neighborhood streets in your area where those crimes occurred. We won't put people's addresses. We won't denote the exact area, but we absolutely will at least give people more of a grounded sense to know if issues are arising in their community, their specific neighborhood, and if so, where. Last area I wanted to cover with you briefly through our Mayor Pro Tem's, actually one of her initial partnerships was the Shopping Center Security Improvement Plan. So I'm going to spend a quick slide here just to remind everybody what it was. It was really an effort to get together, identify the key shopping areas of our community, and then as we do that, take a look at them and see what we can do in a collaborative sense, both city officials, city services, and most importantly, the actual business owners and property owners, so that we could both support them in what maybe they lack to make their shopping center better, but honestly, at the same time, also place reasonable accountability to them so that the city wasn't continuously subsidizing the failures or low provisions by property owners in our city. So a collaborative group was put together, and as you can see, it didn't just encompass the police department. We actually had the representatives from planning, code enforcement, city attorney's office all join us. We took part on field assessments that went out and took a look at each individual location, got an idea of the uniqueness of each, got an idea of also what the challenges were depending on their own logistics, and then kind of built from there. Over that work, which was actually several months, our community affairs unit really took the lead on managing both our city response as well as the continued dialogue and accountability with the private owners. Some key areas were actually found to be identified and then worked on for better improvements. So we worked on everything from the simple stuff, as in lighting and communication offerings there, but we also worked with them to create a guards program. So instead of just a random security effort done at one place but not at others, we tried to get everybody more on a consistent page. Also with training offered through our department of what guards should be expected to do, look for, not do, and become a more proactive, involved service for while they were out there. Another great thing, thankful to our elected council, City Ordinance 2075 was adopted, which actually put teeth into what the city can do if non-compliance is being experienced in some of these shopping center areas. Since this build-out only really started last year, one of the questions was, well, is there success? What we're finding right now is there success? Yes, but, and there's always that but in there. The first part of the but isn't really necessarily bad. It's just because it's so new, we actually can't compare apples to apples. We can go back and say, well, it's markedly different, but we'd like to compare it in a scope of analysis that compares what it was before to a full run at what it can be with everybody up and running. But I did want to share with you these statistics. They are drawn from, again, our statistic vendor analysis of key shopping centers. These are one of the more prominent three. The Ralph's, I typically call it just the Ralph's parking lot. It's 118th and Hawthorne Boulevard, so you have that area. You have Crenshaw and 120th. The other shopping areas there, really east of Crenshaw Boulevard. And then Rosecrans and Prairie is another major shopping center. We didn't involve for this context the largest one, which would be Ocean Gate, because that brings in different dynamics. But in fairness, using these three, these are the ones that the scope of our analysis is focused on now and will stay on to know where the positives are, where the negatives are, and what's working. I emphasize a couple of things here before I close on this. First, those same challenges that I shared with you before on the current crime trends and the current increases predominantly really in the quality of life, the thefts, vehicle theft, auto, residential burglaries, can readily be seen in this same shopping center analysis. Individuals going in and committing thefts in retail places is markedly increased. And so if you take a look at these shopping centers, I already gave you a gamut of what your police department handles in calls for service just through the 911 center. Take a look at the number of incidents. These are just 3 shopping centers. So if you want to pick one, and obviously we always gravitate to the biggest number, I encourage you to take a look at 2 categories here. For instance, over 1,200 calls in, mind you, in a one-year period at one shopping center area. That would be the 120th and Crenshaw 1. Now, as you break them down, what we do is we actually denote addresses. So when you break them down, you'll say, okay, that's a big shopping center and involves both sides of the street. Are they equally spread? And what you find is no, they're not. So the highest business entity over there had really a quarter of the calls, 300 calls at one business. So what we'll do is identify this. The same collaborative group that was created goes out and has routine dialogue with that business entity to find out, okay, why so many, and then what do you need and what do we need, because every time, and I take it back to the first slide, what's important to everybody here when you need the police? The response time. Well, when you're spending time at lower grade calls in areas that could be better served if more emphasis and program advantageous actions were taken, then our response times can invariably be better because we're freer to handle the more emergent type calls. So in this quick analysis, you can look at to see just what 3 shopping centers do create. You can see that every shopping center in and of itself usually has a large stakeholder that derives a lot of calls. And yes, I will tell you that the vast majority of those calls typically are a petty theft or a theft. I'm not here to set anything in anybody's mindset that they're a felonious-based call or something that would jeopardize your safety and security more than normal. Last slide, and I will thank you for your time. Please know our community is always open and invited to contact our Community Affairs Unit for anything, whether it be just a better way to secure your own home or your car, questions you may have that have to do with neighborhood issues. I believe, remind me, Mike, I think this Thursday is a coffee with the cop. I believe we're doing one I believe it's this time, it's on at the McDonald's on the west side of town on Rosecrans in Hindley. So anyway, I invite any community member always to try to engage with us as much as we are trying to engage with you, both in the personal sense, social media sense, and most importantly, your appreciation for having your Hawthorne Police Department. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time. Thank you for the council's time.
To the chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief, and I appreciate the stats that you provided this evening. That was something that I thought was very important to bring forth to the community. More importantly, I think it's something we need to do on a regular. I would ask that you would look into doing this on a possibly every 6 months basis. I understand that not everyone has access to the website and is understands exactly where they might have concerns and know what to do. I appreciate the officer with the cop, coffee with the cop, and that's obviously taken off nationally, and I thank you for what you've been forwarding to us. Some of the great work from our police officers that are nationally known at this point in going out in training, so we appreciate that. I addressed some concerns at the last council with regards to possibly looking at ceasing operations of alcohol sales at 10 p.m. This is something I'd like to discuss further. I know that there are great concern in the community with regards to some of these, not all stores that continue to have these type of vagrants that just hang out and are really up to no good. And so I'd like to discuss that and look at that further. I've been speaking myself with ABC through the state, and so I'd like to collaborate and see what efforts we could make to deter some of the obvious, and so want to work on that. I want to ultimately see, if you can, a breakdown. I know you made mention of Prop 147, the early release. 47, yes.
Yep.
And so I'd like to see like a portion of that on its own, the crime stats from that alone, and then possibly the crime stats from the 4th of July alone, and then possibly provide this at the next presentation in a few months or so.
Okay.
If it's something that's needed sooner, we'll definitely call on you, and I'm sure we could coordinate that here.
Yes, ma'am.
But to your police officers, as always, great work, stay safe, and I'm out there watching what it is that you're doing too. And that goes across the board, whether you're riding on a bus or on a bike or just pedestrian on the street. You could see it, and we could see, obviously, the PD that's on it. And so we appreciate that greatly, at least I do. And I know the community is safer because of Hawthorne Police.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And,
Through the
Through
chair.
the, chair.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Fager, for that excellent comprehensive report. And I am just delighted at the growth of the shopping center security program. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about it. Have you gotten the cooperation from the shopping center owners that is necessary for this to continue to be successful?
yes, yes. Largely, the cooperation, the dialogue is there. But like in any avenue, no different than our own Civic Avenue, there's always a cost implication, there's a time implication. So trying to juncture that with a partnership to say we understand, but there's got to be a deadline. Like we can't just say we understand forever and watch the quality of life decrease. So that's been the biggest challenge.
Have you seen noticeable changes since you've been working with them?
Yes, we have the noticeable changes of the shopping centers. Even more so, we actually have more noticeable changes with the largest stakeholders within them, because really every shopping center has a main anchor. And it's usually that anchor that draws the most impact, whether it be positive or whether it be negative. So really working with them and having them understand that this is not just a one-off. It's not like we're picking on you, and it's not like the focus is solely an accusation against you, but having them understand that this is a civic partnership. However, the bigger success you are, you can be showcased as one of the civic winners, then that gives them a new incentivized reason to play ball with us.
I just wonder, with the shopping centers, especially where you have the anchors that are corporate owned,
Yes.
and they're not actually managed from Hawthorne, but managed from somewhere else, from regional manager somewhere. Do they take the same interest as if they were locally owned?
They take the same interest in terms of the local management, but a few times we cross areas that, like anything else, you need corporate approval. And so sometimes that's, I'm not going to say it's an obstruction, but it's a delay. So they have to go through their own procedural backgrounds to figure out what we're talking about. And then once they partner with us, the response has been great. I can tell you one example is Target, because Target is a very large corporation, very large entity, and their store in our city is one of the top. But it's the top of everything. It's the top in volume, top in sales, and also the top in calls for service by virtue of just being in that class. So they recognize it though, but they actually embrace law enforcement partnerships. So they will set up meetings with all their new employees, and we can actually go in and talk to 50 people, 50 employees at a time, and kind of reach a much more collaborative response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. The 2 minutes and 27 second response time is truly impressive as far as the response to the emergency calls. And as far as linking the stats with the neighborhood maps, that's truly cutting edge. So, thank you for
sir.
being in the forefront for public safety.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you for putting together that information. I know that there's this misconception out there that every single call that is made to the police department requires a detention or intervention by police officers, etc. But our police officers do know best when it's appropriate and what is needed based on the hierarchy of the priority of response and what's really needed. Sometimes it's, a group of people that are gathered around, and it's just get them out of there, just in an insistence on getting them out of the area. Or maybe there is something that's smelled in the air, and we have to stop and, hey, apply whatever you have to do, citation or an arrest, etc. But not always. So maybe I think that's the misconception out there. My question to you, and a concern that the residents have, a couple of residents have out there, is when they call, can they remain anonymous? This is always something that keeps coming up. And
Yes,
I have
sir.
a couple comments after you've
Yes,
answered
sir.
that.
Yeah, first, thank you for talking about that. Actually, in one of my slides, I mentioned disposition at the end of a call.
Yeah.
Really, that's what was the result? What happened? What'd you do or what didn't you do? So I appreciate you sharing that, because you're absolutely right. A lot of times residents call for good reasons. They see things. but depending on what they're reporting, depending on the type of crime, if our officers get there and don't see those same things, I'm sorry to offend people, but you saying you saw it is not good enough. That's the problem. So many times it'll have that generic appearance of, well, they showed up, they just said something, chatted with them, and then let them all go. Well, because they have to trip certain criteria in our police officer presences to enact a further investigation and maybe arrest. So that's important to know. So thank you for sharing that. Can residents remain anonymous? Absolutely, they can remain anonymous. In this day and age of technology, just like it's affecting law enforcement, though, do know when people call, we most of the time end up with your phone number. So we will end up probably trying to reach back to you saying, okay, you wanted to remain anonymous, but we may be at a crossroad where if you don't come forward and help us and say who you are and let us contact you for further information, then we are actually going nowhere with anything. And that leads to that frustration level. One of the best examples I can give to you, and let's keep all the serious type calls aside for now, is loud music. Very common complaint, especially in parts of our cities where there's apartment complexes and people live in close proximity to each other. You can always call our department if somebody is violating your standard of disturbing your peace, and for instance, the music is just inordinately loud, and if you would like to remain anonymous, we will still come out and try to address the problem for you. However, I do have to put this out. If something is to be done, if something should be done, because this is now the second or third time, if you so choose to remain anonymous, then what you do with us is you take away the one area we have of furthering a complaint, because, for instance, in my example, loud music, you have to have really, for lack of a better word, a victim. And it's not us. It is you who called. So if you call and you don't want to get involved, then we can't use you as a victim, and most of the time you're not going to see the success you have. So that's the one thing I do want to emphasize to our residents. We'd rather have you call to address issues, but just understand not getting involved will only take solution to a certain point.
So the other thing I wanted to mention was I noted the response times, and the response times are very, very good. So it definitely speaks to the excellence of our police department doing what you got to do and running a tight ship. So I commend our police officers and the management for putting that together and asking for all the resources to make stuff like that happen. But definitely, Proposition 47, some people touched on it. And it's something that I see as I teach in the high school program to inmates in the county jail. And definitely, it's something that has definitely hurt our community with the early release of criminals. You know, the reduction of some of the drug offenses out there. There used to be felonies, now they're misdemeanors, etc. And in my work, I see a lot of recurring bodies coming in and out of the system that I have to teach. And they take it lightly. Oh, I'm back again, ha, ha, ha. Or people just they take it lightly. So the reoccurrence of these crimes is more frequent. So you have a lot of more criminality out on the street. It's unfortunate. I think the community, the state was deceived. Unfortunately, the members of our council decided to vote on a resolution, support a resolution in support of Proposition 47. We knew ahead of time, and police agencies were warning us that something was going to happen. And it's come true. The sheriff of LA County mentioned something. You've mentioned something. I've heard the chief of police in Long Beach say something. It's definitely something that I think people spoke to soon in support of. And look what's happened. So I also have heard talk that there might be police agencies and law enforcement throughout the state that are going to unite and ask for the reversal of Proposition 47. Is that something that you think our department or you would recommend our city to do at this early point in the game, sir?
Well, I would definitely tell you, yes, I would support that 100%, and you're going to find all in law enforcement behind it 100%. But it is actually a legislative act, so it's beyond that. It'd have to be a new initiative to overturn it.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
I want to thank you for all the work you've done. Actually, it was one of my personal fundraisers that this crime actually happened that initiated this particular program. And I want to thank you so much. It was 2 years ago already. It feels like it was yesterday. But it was one of my contributors whose car was broken into. Everything was taken. And it was, and I'm glad Councilwoman Valentine did step up to the plate and make this beautiful program happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all.
I would like to call Director David Roberts to the podium, please.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council, constituents. Just want to take a brief moment as we file in here from the Cable Department. Wanted to just show you a brief presentation. On a lighter note, what's happened here lately in the Cable Department. There's been a couple of new programs that was instituted, and the chief so eloquently spoke about the Coffee with the Cop program. We were able to actually capture some of that information. So we thought we'd give you an opportunity to watch a little TV for a moment. So I'm going to have Eric or Debbie go ahead, and she's going to run the actual presentation, give you an opportunity to see everything that's been done here in a moment, and then we'll kind of go into more detail. And while she's, hopefully that'll pull up. Yeah, this should play it there. So for those that can't see, and hopefully we'll be able to hear here in a moment. There we go.
HCTV earned first place at the 2015 Scanator Awards for City News and in the category of documentary profile under 400,000 for our coverage of Coffee with the Cop, as well as placing in second place for Hawthorne profiles in the same category. In addition, we earned second place for Our Town Continental Gourmet.
Yeah, I've got to see Russell.
In this edition of City News, find out what major company released one of its newest products right here in our own city. Also see how local organizations are putting their foot down to stop domestic violence. Let's see why these folks are already thinking of the holiday season. These stories and much more coming up on City News. Captain Keith Kaufman and Sergeant Chris Konyak headed to Salt Lake City, Utah to continue training more officers on the Coffee with the Cop program.
We're in Magna, Utah at Smith's. It's a grocery store. Not really working too well. There's some issues with, people aren't coming in and there's a lot of cops and it's kind of intimidating.
They're helping the host agency with suggestions on how to improve if necessary.
So we're trying to break things up a bit. We're making a guy go to the door and be a greeter, which is something that we always stress. And we're going to thin it out a bit so people are more friendly and welcoming. So that's one of the things we do here after the class is we have a practical application and we come and we help them do it better. So we'll see how it works.
Olympian pride. This comes to mind when the topic of losing your football is talked about. And after a 2-38 record the last 4 years, one man stepped up to try and bring back that pride.
Damian Porter, head football coach, Lusinger High School.
Hawthorne's got some great stuff. Great food, great people, great stories. I'm Sergeant Chris Cognac, and I'm going to show them to you. This is our town. Everybody knows that cops know the best places to eat. I'm going to show you one of my favorites, Continental Gourmet. It's at 129th and Prairie. They got a deli, they got sandwiches, they got meats. It's fantastic. Come check it out. All right, we're going to meet my friend Sergio. He's been here for a long time. His family owns this place. It's great food.
Okay, as you can see, that was just kind of a brief synopsis and a quick little visual of basically the 4 programs that our cable department actually took first place, 2 first place awards and 2 second place awards. 2 of the programs that you witnessed were actually brand new programs that were instituted, obviously Coffee with a Cop, and I want to thank the police department for giving us the opportunity to tag along and be able to give you a visual of what they actually do when they say they leave from Hawthorne and have extended this program. That was just a quick snippet, obviously, of Utah, but they've gone all the way as far as, if I'm not mistaken, Philadelphia, which, again, Captain Ishii would be happy to explain more so. But it's been a tremendous program, as well as the opportunity for certain programs that we actually put on Channel 22 for you all to visually see. And this was all done by the work by those that are behind me. I think it speaks volumes of their efforts, specifically when we're competing against those with budgets over $1 million. The budgets that we were working with in the categories were less than $400,000, and we took first place. So when we're competing against other jurisdictions, other agencies within the state of California as well as Nevada to win first place, I think speaks volumes of what they've done. So I want to give a moment an opportunity to have them introduce themselves and allow you all here in this council meeting, as well as those that are viewing, to see who it is that's been producing and viewing and giving you the great television that you've been seeing. So without further ado, I'll introduce Eric Chavez and Debbie Shantos.
Thank you very much for this opportunity for you guys to check out some of the work that we've done. I'll let all the guys here introduce themselves, but I just wanted to say some of the guys that couldn't be here, want to recognize them, because without them, some of this stuff couldn't have happened. That's Photog's Francisco Castillo, Luis Godinez, Luis Gonzalez, Stephen James, Mamdou Salih, and reporters is Daniel Lindley, Shantae Passmore, Cindy San Luis, and Jennifer Wade. Here's the rest of the crew.
I just wanted to say thank you again for letting us actually work for the city. It's been great, and I believe I speak for everyone that we all enjoy hunting for stories and learning more about the city. Just wanted to say that Hawthorne should be proud. We actually, in the LA market, out of the ABC, CBS, NBC, and KTLA, each station has a reporter who started here in Hawthorne, and they are on that network now. We also have our business cards. We left some more out front, and we have on the back of them information how you can watch the channel. If you can't get Time Warner Cable on Channel 22 in the city, there are other ways to see our programming. And I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Freddie Rodriguez. I'm a photographer for the channel.
I'm Jennifer Murillo Avila. I'm a reporter and producer and anchor for our channel.
Hello, I'm Kelly Moody. I'm one of the actual new reporters for Hawthorne Community Television, and it's been very exciting to get to watch everything that happens in the city, so thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul Knapp, and I've been here 15 years. I've probably done 560 council meetings. Wow. Always downstairs, so you don't see me. I've produced over 200 library shows. I've produced 5 documentaries of Beach Boys. I was co-host with Norb on the tour of Hawthorne, and just been a great time these last 15 years. Thanks.
And so again, council as well as constituents, I just wanted you to get a visual of those that are behind the camera. So when you're out and about and the different events that happen in the city and you wonder, well, who is it that's covering them? These are just some of the staff. One of the staff members, as a matter of fact, is getting an Employee of the Year award with the Los Angeles Dodgers, so that's why they can't be here because they're working there. So we're very extremely proud of all the work that they've done, and just wanted to give you an opportunity to see them face to face, since you typically they're behind the camera, so you don't really get to see them or intermingle with them. But at this time, if I'd love to have the council, if they wouldn't mind, taking a picture with the folks, and we'd like to get those posted on the website so we can kind of promote and brag on all of our employees here with the cable department. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Hi everybody. Let's even out a little bit. If I can get you guys to go to your right. There we go. All right, everybody look at me. One, two, three. One more. One, two, three. Very nice, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
I want to say thank you to the cable department, to all of you, for all of the wonderful work you do all the time, for always showing up to our events, for making us look good. Because of you, Hawthorne looks really good, and you really make our events a big success, and we really do appreciate you. Thank you again, and thank you, David, for bringing them.
Through your chair.
Yes, sir.
Wow, 560 meetings in 15 years, Paul. That's incredible. And I've known you for all that time, and time just flies by. I just want to, thank all the members that come to our events. Eric, Francisco, Magdu, Jennifer, and everybody else. It's a very hardworking crew. Thank you very much.
And to the chair,
Yes.
I just want to say again, Channel 22, you're awesome. You make the sacrifice even on weekends to be present, and we thank you for that. Paul, I think I first met you when you were having car trouble outside in the parking lot, and I ended up giving you a ride home to Torrance, and we talked about what you do, and I learned who you were, and that was just a good time for me bonding and to hear all the other work that you have done. You're extraordinary and a good person, and I just want to thank Channel 22 for all you're doing. And you're absolutely right. I see some of our anchors that started here on local TV at home at 10 and 11, and that's awesome. And I know some of you are going to be doing that here shortly too. Thanks.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I'd like to echo everything that my colleagues have said, and in particular highlight the Beach Boys documentary, the one where you're traveling throughout the city and showing all the different locations. I didn't know that the Beach Boys went to York Elementary School. That's where I went to kindergarten, but you highlighted that in the documentary. So, and all the different other places around Hawthorne where they live, where they went to school, and so that's just an example of the quality of work that our team does here. So congratulations, Cable Department.
Thank you, Cable. Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, please read guidelines for our communications.
Any person desiring to address the City Council, Parking Authority, Housing Authority should complete a speaker request card and submit the card to the city clerk prior to the commencement of the meeting. After obtaining permission to proceed by the presiding officer, speakers should first state their full name and address for the record. They then shall state their business for all governing bodies briefly and completely, and unless granted further time by a governing body, shall limit their address to 5 minutes. The 5-minute limit shall include governing body or staff responses to queries posted by speakers. However, the state open meetings law prohibits the City Council from providing a detailed response or acting upon any item not contained on the agenda posted 72 hours before a regular meeting or 24 hours before a special meeting. All remarks shall be addressed to the governing bodies as a body and not to any particular member thereof. The governing body may either dispose of the communication at the close thereof or may refer it to an appropriate administrative officer for study, investigation, report, and/or recommendation. Discussion, if any, shall be by members of a governing body only. Materials related to an item on this agenda submitted to the City Council, Parking Authority, or Housing Authority after distribution of the agenda packet are available for public inspection in the City Clerk's office during normal business hours.
Patricia Donaldson.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Patricia Donaldson, President CEO of the Hawthorne Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to make an announcement that our installation for our Board of Directors will be on August 28th at 11:30 a.m. at the Memorial Center. And we're almost sold out on tables. I think we have 3 tables left. So if you're interested in sponsoring at the installation, we'd appreciate you calling the Chamber at 310-676-1163, and we want to thank the mayor for buying a table also. And then the other thing that I know that everyone wanted to hear about was we finally served Melvonte Williams, and our court date to hopefully get back our $2,500 is October 19th, 8:30 a.m. at the Inglewood Courthouse. And we're hoping that David Patterson will, since he brought him in, that David Patterson will go and speak to him so we can get our $2,500 back. And that's it for right now. Thank you.
Lawndale Mayor Robert Poland Miles, and also District Director for Ottenberg.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Members of the City Council, I'm Robert Pulley Miles, District Director for Assemblywoman Ottenberg. I just came tonight to invite the whole council as well as the residents here in the city of Hawthorne to an exciting event that the Assembly member is going to be hosting. It's her first annual Back to School Health and Wellness Fair. It's going to take place on Saturday, August the 29th at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be in the city of Venice, in the Venice area, which includes all of her district, which includes Venice, at Oakwood Park. The location is at 767 California Street, Venice, California. Once again, it's Oakwood Park, 767 California Street, Venice, California. And we're really excited because we're going to have a lot of screening for not only for the students, but also for the whole entire family. So it's a good opportunity to make sure that your students get their eyes checked, their ears checked, their blood pressure. Well, that's for the older folks, but get the blood pressure, but all the other good stuff in the glucose as well. And we're also going to have some fun activities like jumpers and things of that nature. And so it's going to be a lot of fun for the whole entire family. So we're encouraging everyone to come out. Once again, that's the Back to School Health and Wellness Fair sponsored by Assemblywoman Ottenberg. The location is Oakwood Park, 767 California Street, Venice, California. It's going to be held on Saturday, August the 29th at 10 a.m. Hope to see everyone there. Thank you.
Gordon Michael Meagle.
Hello, everyone. Gordon Michael Meagle, native and resident of Hawthorne since October the 8th, 1952. I'll speak on a couple of things tonight. Starting off, this past Saturday, August the 8th, there was an article in the Los Angeles Times in regards to the Martin Luther King Hospital that had their grand opening at over there in South Los Angeles. A great victory for the people over there, and the community that has been without a hospital for 8 years, mind you. And Mark Ridley Thomas, who had initially tried to open up the hospital as a public county-only facility, was basically run up against a brick wall whenever a group of us right here from Hawthorne, a group of residents, business people, civic leaders, and other professionals put forward a proposal for a new hospital on the side of the RFK Medical Center via a regional nonprofit hospital under a public-private partnership. Mark Ridley Thomas ran with that and was ultimately successful, and he was very much appreciative to our group, and has promised that once he had finished with the MLK Hospital project, and now he has, he would turn his attention to Hawthorne and help us out. So I think it's going to be very important for the leaders in our city to get together with all the interested parties, various professionals, and to work together, kind of a task force, what have you, and to make our hospital happen here. It's going to be very important. Another article that appeared in a newspaper, this one being the Daily Breeze of yesterday, August the 10th, and this regards the Del Amo Fashion Center, the mall that has been under construction for, well, nearly a couple of years, 21 months they say to be exact. And Nordstrom's that'll be moving from the Galleria down over there. And quite honestly, it took a lot of strong leadership from the city of Torrance, various other people working together to make it happen over there. And that, turning our attention here, focusing on our Hawthorne Mall across the boulevard over here, that's what it's going to take, strong leadership from the top on down. And whoever is sitting up on the dais is really going to have to put themselves out a lot more than they usually do, because we have a mall that has been closed for 15 years. It's a money maker that can happen. We have all of the ingredients to make it happen. There is no excuse for it not to happen, and we need to work together with the mall owner, provide what are the incentives, this, that, and whatever, to make that come to fruition sooner rather than later. And that speaks in the same vein to our hospital. For the hospital, a new hospital on the side of the Robert F. Kennedy Medical Center, the money is there, both public and private realm. It's not a matter of it not being there, it's a matter of leadership again, and getting with the right people to make it happen. So the people, the voters, are going to all be scrutinizing, the current leadership and those that are candidates out there, and they need to ask those tough questions. Where do you stand on the mall, the hospital, the civic center, museum, library, and the park? And what's your plan of action? How are you going to accomplish this? And so on and so forth. The people have been waiting far too long, 15 years on the mall, 10 years on the hospital. And, Lawndale has gotten a new library years ahead of Hawthorne when we could have had it long before. So that being said, hopefully everybody will take that into consideration as they proceed on the campaign trail and vying amongst each others for the positions that are out there. The people will be wanting very much to hear everything that comes through their mail, whether when you come door to door, you're talking to them, or at candidate forums, whatever it may be. The people expect direct answers, very explanative answers, detailed proposals, and they're not going to go for this fluff stuff, and saying, well, I did some kind of event over here, or I did some other event over there. They want some answers to substantive issues that are very important to the people in this community. And I might add, when I was talking about Del Amo, here, when I was over there over the weekend, there is an ad that Sears Department Store is putting out that they're asking for people to apply for jobs that are in all categories over there. So I might add that let's get a Sears Department Store over here in Hawthorne, so where we can hire a lot of unemployed Hawthorne residents in the area.
Thank you, Gordon. I have no other cards. Is there anyone who wishes to address these bodies? Wow. That's a first.
Good evening, Mayor and council people and city residents. I agree, we need that hospital. I read articles where the ambulance, they don't have enough ambulance to take us to the hospital. They would have to take me to Torrance Memorial. By that time, I'll be gone. I think that we need a hospital and we need it near here. And I'm going to fight for it till I go up to the shuttle and back maybe. But I'm going to work for that hospital. I know people, if we lose one person, it's worth over $100 million. So we got to stand together and put that hospital back in. Very, very important. Because going to Centinela, it's too busy. Going anyplace else, we have so many people here. And let's renew the hospital and get it going. There's a lot of doctors in that big building over there. Heart doctors, all kinds of doctors. So we're in a good position. We have SpaceX, and I don't know where they put their people, where they go to it. I know they park under the mall, and then they get shuttled back and forth. But where do they go to the hospital? There's a lot of people working at SpaceX. And I'm surprised that they don't back that up a little bit too. So, as I said, I'm going to start the homeowners association in my area. And I'm going to keep fighting for that hospital until the end comes. And I hope all of you are with me because they don't have enough ambulances to take them to the hospital anymore. So. And I complained about the check I gave to Pat McDonald's. And on the back of the check is only numbers. I think I have a right to know. I did not receive anything they did away with it, but I never received my money back. And I think that I have a right to know where that check was deposited. Every time I go to the bank, they says we can't reveal it. Well, somebody's got to reveal it because I have a right to know who put that check into the bank and where. And so I don't care. I'll keep at it until I find out because I have a right to know it's my check. And it came back with just numbers and no signature in the back. And I'd like to know who it is. And I thank you very much for listening to me. And send me to the shuttle. I want to go.
If there are no objections, I declare oral communications closed. So ordered. At this time, I recess the Parking Authority and Housing Authority meetings to conduct the City Council meeting. The authority meetings are recessed. Mr. Clerk, may we have your consent calendar, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 7 items on my consent calendar for your approval. Item number 3, approval of the waiver of full readings of resolutions and ordinances on tonight's agenda. Item number 4, City Treasurer requests approval of the warrants. Item number 5, Resolution number 7731, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, authorizing the City